What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. At 15, I was a homeless black boy, wandering beneath the glitzy chandeliers of a luxury shopping mall, my tattered clothes a stark contrast to the opulent surroundings. I was invisible to the snobbish patrons, overlooked by the busy shoppers and humiliated by the aggressive security guard Anderson, whose disdain I still remember. People used to treat me like I was nothing. Just as I found a small refuge beneath an ornate bench, I heard a gasp echo through the marble halls. A pregnant millionaire, Patricia Blackwell, career-focused and self-absorbed, had crumpled to the ground, unnoticed by the crowd more intent on ridiculing me. My heart raced. Instinct kicked in, and I stepped forward, ready to help. But instead of gratitude, I was met with accusations. Patricia's friends screamed, claiming I was assaulting her, triggering a frenzy of whispers filled with prejudice and bias. The crowd that had previously ignored me united in their judgment. Then I was arrested, an innocent boy trapped by a web of lies spun by the very people who enacted cruelty. What I didn't anticipate was the awakening of Victoria Hartwell, who, just before being whisked away, claimed I had saved her. The truth bore down like a beacon in that suffocating chaos. With her voice soaring above the falsehoods, a whirlwind of redemption began. I found myself entangled in a battle not just for my own dignity, but for a system too eager to bind the innocent. Years later, I look back, grateful for that moment that ignited the fire within. With Victoria's support, I ventured into a future filled with purpose, proving that kindness can emerge even from the darkest corners. My journey transformed pain into purpose, and I now stand not just as a medical resident, but as a symbol of resilience amid a world still grappling with injustice. "Out of my way," Anderson barked, shoving Kevin aside as he stormed past, eyes scanning for trouble. The mall's pristine marble echoed the laughter of patrons, each chuckle a weight on Kevin's shoulders. "Look at him," snapped Patricia Blackwell, a designer handbag propped under her arm, her voice dripping with disdain. "Someone should teach that child some manners." "Yeah, like he's learned anything," chimed in another woman, her gaze sweeping over Kevin's torn jeans and ragged hoodie as if he were trash to be ignored. Their laughter seeped into Kevin's skin, leaving stinging embarrassment in its wake. Kevin tried to shrink into the wall, but as a commotion erupted nearby, his instincts flared. A woman, a pregnant woman, was crumpling to the floor. It was Victoria Hartwell, the millionaire matriarch. "Help! Someone help her!" he yelled, rushing forward. "Get back!" Anderson's voice thundered, but Kevin didn't stop. "She needs," Atricia screeched, eyes wide. "He's attacking her." "No, I'm helping." Desperation clawed at his throat as he fumbled for his phone to call for help. The crowd's energy shifted. Faceless accusations hurled like stones. Someone pulled out a phone, filming as Kevin knelt beside Victoria. "Arrest him!" someone shouted. As handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the world blurred. Kevin stared up into the faces of those who condemned him without a thought, rage boiling beneath the surface. "I didn't do anything," he cried, voice cracking, but their jeers drowned him out. A badge of shame, locked away while the real danger loomed large, unchecked and unchallenged. Kevin crouched in the corner of the luxury mall, rain-soaked and shivering, loose threads hanging from his clothes like whispers of his struggles. He watched as the world moved on around him, shiny shoes clacking against polished floors, laughter echoing off marble walls. He couldn't remember the last time someone had smiled at him. A flicker of hope dimmed with the disdainful glances of patrons, but he kept his head down, teaching himself to disappear in plain sight. Today was different. As he sat there, the familiar heaviness of humiliation pressed down harder. Anderson, the security guard, strolled by, eyes narrowed, searching. Kevin clenched his fists. Then it happened. Victoria Hartwell, the pregnant millionaire, collapsed without warning. Gasps echoed, but nobody approached. They stared, their gazes heavy with judgment. "Move, you little brat!" Patricia's voice sliced through the air, aimed at him for trying to help. The cacophony around him surged, a tide of accusations crashing against his resolve. Accused of an assault as he knelt beside Victoria, desperate to revive the life that stirred within her, he felt the world suffocating him. That was it. His patience reached its limit. Kevin's voice trembled as he shouted, "I'm not the enemy. I'm trying to save her." The crowd's awareness shifted, but it felt like a distant echo. The air thickened, charged with uncertainty. What had he become to them? A nuisance? An invisible worry? Here, in this moment, his spirit boiled beneath layers of despair. The injustice surrounding him ignited a fierce resolve. In that fleeting instant, he understood the truth. It was time to stand, to reclaim his story. Kevin took a deep breath as he faced the relentless onslaught of jeers from the crowd. He felt the heat of their judgment, but something inside him began to shift. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said quietly, but the tremor in his voice was gone. Instead, it was firm, steady. The security guard, Anderson, sneered, "You think you can just waltz in here and—" Interrupted, Robert ending through the chaos. "Let him go. He saved my life." There was a moment of stunned silence. Kevin glanced at her, seeing the fire in her eyes. The whispers that surrounded him turned from accusations to confusion. He could see a chink in their armored opinions, a small victory blossoming in the tension. "I helped her because it was the right thing to do," he continued, emboldened. "Maybe if you looked a little closer, you'd see that." Patricia's face reddened, her condescension faltering. "You think you know better than us?" "Maybe I do," Kevin shot back, his pulse quickening with a newfound strength. "Just because I don't wear your shoes doesn't mean I don't know what's real." Victories felt like rocks stacking up, small and unnoticed by many, yet solidifying under his feet. When Jonathan Pierce arrived, Kevin felt a wave of relief wash over him. "We're going to clear your name," Jonathan said, placing a reassuring hand on Kevin's shoulder. "You showed compassion when no one else did. That's your power. Parachute." "I want to help people," Kevin replied, his voice barely above a whisper but now infused with confidence. He knew this was the first step. These small moments of reclaiming control would lead him to forge a future he wanted. Patricia Blackwell's head hung low in the courtroom, her designer suit suddenly feeling like a straitjacket tightened by guilt. The air crackled with tension as the judge spoke of betrayal and prejudice, the truth surfacing like a lifeline for the drowning. Kevin sat composed, a quiet strength emanating from his weary but determined eyes, surrounded by supporters who had witnessed his struggle. The security footage played on a large screen, revealing the unfolding of that fateful day. Muffled gasps filled the room as the images showed not only Kevin rushing to help Victoria, but exposed the collusion between Patricia and Anderson. The crowd could only stare, mouths agape, as Patricia's frantic whispers turned to cries of denial. "Schizophrene, this isn't what it looks like." Her voice cracked, shrill and desperate, echoing in the once proud room now imbued with whispers of shame. Kevin, shrouded in silence, felt a wave of vindication wash over him, the quiet triumph clashing against the tidal wave of Patricia's unraveling. As the images continued to roll, the jury's faces hardened, empathy replaced by outrage at the injustice they'd almost served. Anderson shifted uncomfortably in his chair, the weight of his authority crumbling under the gravity of his betrayal. Without a word, Kevin's heart swelled, not out of revenge, but of a newfound sense of justice. With every damning piece of evidence presented, Patricia's facade fractured. The truth was relentless, and with each revelation, Kevin felt his own wounds begin to heal. The once mocking bystanders who had caricatured his pain now shifted in their seats, remorse filling the space once occupied by prejudice. Finally, the gavel struck. Victorek in the room, but not for revenge. It was for the voiceless, for those who had been cast aside. Victorious but gentle, Kevin stepped outside where the sunlight glimmered, bathing him in warmth. Victoria was there, pride shining in her eyes as she approached. "Kevin," she said, her voice steady and grateful, "let's change the world together." As Patricia slinked away, Kevin realized the true power of kindness. The applause that echoed in his heart was loud enough. He had transcended humiliation. He was no longer the homeless boy in the rain, but a beacon of hope. As I look back on those tumultuous days, I find comfort in the wisdom I've gained. From the chaos of that mall to the halls of hospitals where I now walk as a medical resident, I've learned that resilience and empathy are my greatest allies. The judgments of others once weighed heavily on me, but they no longer define my worth. I stood up in a moment when no one else would, And that choice altered the course of my life. It wasn't simply about surviving. It was about finding strength in vulnerability and community in adversity. With that day, was my response in the face of disdain too bold? Have I truly forgiven those who underestimated me? The layers of my past continue to teach me, reminding me of the delicate balance between right and wrong. What would you have done in my place? Do you believe that one's actions can rewrite their narrative, or are we forever bound by our beginnings? Share your thoughts and experiences below. Let's open a dialogue about justice, power, and the humanity we all share.